Today's episode is brought to you by Taft Law and its Franchise Advance program, a one-of-a-kind program developed by your host, Josh Brown, to help entrepreneurs assess, convert, and grow your business the right way through sound franchise structures. To learn more, go to taftlaw.com and type Franchise Advance Program in the search bar.
If you think like, act like, or are trying to grow like a franchise, then the Franchise Euphoria podcast is for you. Hello and welcome everybody. Josh Brown here, and I created this podcast for one main goal: to help people who are trying to grow their business through franchising or franchise-like structures to do it the right way. I've been practicing law now as a franchise lawyer for many, many years, and I've seen it done the right way and the wrong way. And this podcast is not filled with a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo. Rather, I talk with real people, people who have been there, have done it, are doing it right now. And I also dive deep into specific topics related to franchising. So if this is of interest to you, you are at the right place. Enjoy. Thrilled to have on Pete DiFilippo today. He is a principal at C Squared Advisors, a leading investment bank and advisory firm that helps multi-unit franchisees in the restaurant and retail industries maximize the value of their businesses by presenting comprehensive solutions and executing complex transactions. Prior to joining C Squared, DiFilippo, I hope I don't screw up that name. But DiFilippo served in franchise finance leadership roles for well-known national banking institutions. How you doing, Pete? Welcome to the show.
Doing well today. Thanks for having me aboard. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time, Josh.
Well, looking forward to talking to you. I mean, we oftentimes, on this show, we'll talk to, the CEOs, people who've started the franchise companies. We'll talk to multi-unit franchisees, the people who are really sort of in the trenches. You're one of the parties that helps support their growth. I mean, you help support these multi-unit franchisees as they continue to grow in multiple ways. But before we talk about that, give a little bit more of your background and what kind of led you to this industry.
So I started off in the banking industry years back and started off in the corporate banking world. From there, I pretty much learned the credit aspect of things, learned how to structure deals, learned front-facing customer interface, business development, and over the years, worked on a tremendous amount of deals, and including a lot of M&A, which is very transferable to the restaurant industry. A lot of structured finance. But mostly customer facing, excelling in business development and relationships with, whether it's clients, whether it's franchisors, franchisees, just dealing with a myriad of people. And, it's about relationship in this industry.
I mean, obviously, you've been doing this for quite some time. I mean, there's been lots of changes. I know we're all kind of coming out of everything, with COVID and, all the different things that happened to really everybody in every industry. I'm curious your thoughts, from your vantage point, what are we looking at right now coming out of COVID in terms of, lending institutions and opportunity for capital and some things for, multi-unit franchisees that may be well positioned to grow, but there's still some uncertainty there.
I mean, it's been such a whirlwind, right, over the last 3-4 years with COVID, with the uncertainty with what's going to happen to people's businesses. How do we get the people to work for us? I mean, 2001 was very turbulent. You're coming off some historic levels, some great operating performances, and all of a sudden franchisees are hit with, we've got record inflation. We've got, now we have rising interest rates. We've got commodity issues. We've got labor issues. So I think there's just been a tremendous amount of activity and uncertainty. And, I think that's led to, obviously, institutions want to make prudent decisions on who they lend to. And I think, now in 2023, coming off 2022 with all of that noise that was in the industry, you've got some lenders and lending institutions who are just really focused on quality, and stability. And, I think they've, tempered their enthusiasm for doing a whole lot of robust deals to really being selective of which deals that they're going to do right now. So there are some challenges. There's still very many challenges out there. And, I think as we navigate through the times, it's, we're trying to see, where the new normal is. And I think we're starting to find that out, Josh. I think you're starting to see, people who've been challenged by the labor market. I think this year in particular, the restaurant industry is almost back to where it was with employment. So I think you're getting some certainty. Some people are coming back to the workforce. I think pre-COVID levels, it was around, they're roughly within that 500,000 of people coming back to that. And I think, with interest rates where they are, they've almost doubled in the last year or so. People have to figure out that that's where rates are going to be for a while now. So they have to, focus on their business, focus on operating the business, and that's where the money's going to be at that rate. So.
Are you having to tell clients? I'm sure it depends on their financial positioning, but I would imagine, some of your conversations might be, hey, you're just sit on the sidelines for a little bit longer. Let's see if these are going to start coming down here through the course of the year. Or what kind of things are you, obviously not getting into client confidences or anything like that, but just generally speaking, you have to be getting a lot of these questions.
Great question. And I think that really has impacted the M&A aspect of the industry as well. Folks who have really gotten tired, they're, don't have they don't have the, the capacity to keep going on, doing all the remodels that the franchisors want to do. They're a little bit tired. So, they're looking, do I want to sell? And I think, a good many of them saw what happened in 2021, early 22, that, the M&A activity was robust. People are taking advantage of, the tremendous performances coming off of COVID. And, I think everyone wants to sell at the high of the market. But, right now, I think, some of the best advice we can give is, stay focused on your business, continue to do what you have to do, work hard. And, when the time is right, that's when you can, sell and maximize what you're going to sell the business for.
Accept a lower price, right? I think that's the reality, right?
Expectations have to be reset by a good many of these folks. And, obviously our firm and the entire industry has had to level set those expectations for, franchisees who want to contemplate selling their business.
So walk us through, because, for some people listening, I want to break this down for people so they really understand what you do and kind of what you can help with. You guys are focused, C-Squared Advisors is focused in the restaurant and retail space. Certainly tons of issues there, tons of touch points, when you're talking about acquisitions and mergers and, capital and workouts, structuring, all sorts of things, valuations, other sorts of services. How do you typically work with somebody? If somebody was to contact you, what would sort of the process be and what type of a restaurant or retail operation is most suitable for your services?
So I think our firm, we're very fortunate with the depth that we have on our team. We've got 6 professionals who come from varied backgrounds, whether it was working for a franchisor, working in banking, working in accounting. So I think we've got some pretty good experience and a lot of deep experience in a lot of different areas. So, you can almost segment a lot of our business into the mergers and acquisitions where, there's sell side representation, buy side representation, shareholder and partner buyouts. Then you go into the financing aspect of it where, I specialized for so many years in franchise, in financing and restructuring, working out loans, getting people access to capital, structuring loans properly, finding the right business partners. And then we're very fortunate, too, that we've got a lot of experience in the refranchising with working with franchisors, helping them, sell off some of their company assets that they're presently working on. And then, we also have the specialty of, helping in workout scenarios to our clients as well. So I think, we come from a little bit different, investment banking firm. We've got all of these subspecialties that we kind of, when M&A activity is down, we kind of pick it up with some of the other areas of expertise. And it's really allowed us to continue to operate in challenging times and just not working on one type of business. We do tend at C-Square, we do tend to work on a lot of the tier 1, tier 2 and independent concepts. So we have some really, really strong relationships with franchisors and franchisees in the bigger systems. And I think that's where we focus, probably 90% of our time and efforts. We travel quite a bit. We're very visible at national conferences, and we partake in many panel discussions and other opportunities of when it comes to reaching out to the public and working with clients. We don't just focus on small customers or big customers. We focus on the customer who, we can make an impact with. There could be a small growing network that needs access to capital, and we'll help them find that right partner. There can be that small and growing franchisee who's looking to grow and acquire and, kind of right size their capital position. And, we work with very, very many large multi-unit franchisees as well in the tier 1, tier 2 areas of the restaurant business. And I think we have a tremendous specialty in the QSR industry.
Yeah. So what differentiates you guys from the other advisory type services that other companies would offer? I mean, is there something that you guys do? Is it just that you're focused on the restaurant retail space? I imagine there's others who are, but kind of what are some of the things that differentiate you guys?
I mean, I think some of the things that, really is part of our advantages, our experience, our relationships, and our clients. We're just not a one-off transaction firm. Many of our clients we've had long-term relationships with. We want to see them be successful. Their success is our success, obviously. Again, as I alluded to, the experience that our team has. I mean, we've got 3 CPAs on staff. We've got, people who worked for franchise, tier 1 franchisors, and we've got professionals who've worked for many national and super regional banking institutions. So I just think the experience that we have and the good understanding of what we're trying to accomplish and what we're trying to do for our clients really gives us that advantage. And, we see every client that we have is truly our client. We don't like to go on both sides of transactions, and we really just want to focus. If we're hiring you or if you're hiring us, we want to make sure that you experience the best possible service that you possibly can do. And I think what we also do really well as a firm is we collaborate on all of our opportunities. So we get the experience from 6 professionals instead of just one person's point of view.
One thing that I often find catches franchisors or multi-unit franchisees alike, off guard a little bit is, they have success, Pete, and, they grow, and then they get an offer. Somebody comes in, they want to buy them. And yet they haven't done all the things along the way, even though they've had a successful business that really has prepared them to make that buying process smooth and easy, make the due diligence process smooth and easier. Talk a little bit about that. I know you and I both have experience on that, going through that entire process. But I've always felt every due diligence type process I've gone through where, you're literally lifting up the rug, the rocks, looking at everywhere, for what's there. How can these businesses, how can these entrepreneurs prepare themselves along the way so they don't find themselves in a situation where you've got a buyer who wants to come and buy, and yet it can get delayed and sometimes completely derailed because just haven't done a great job of keeping all the ducks in a row in terms of what would be provided, to a purchaser of a business.
And that happens, Josh, all the time, as you know. I mean, I think one of the critical components is you got to surround yourself with a great team of people. And obviously, hiring that accountant, hiring that lawyer, hiring that advisory firm, looking for that right banking partner. Those are all things that are critically important that allow the franchisee to operate successfully how they can do. And then when they're approaching that time where they're looking to sell their business, they've got to make sure everything's in order. I mean, to the point where, you start the process of where you're going to sell, make sure your financial statements are up to date. Make sure that your employees are working hard. All too often, you see people who just kind of take their foot off the pedal. And, that's critical. I mean, because, you want to work through the tape. You want to make sure that your company continues to operate. And then when you leave that on to someone else who's purchasing you, on that day one for them, there's no drop off. So I think, that those are critical factors in what you need to do. You need to plan properly and you need to see things through. You just can't, stop when you decide that you want to sell. And I think all too often there's a lot of people who leave a lot of money on the table because things do get retraded because performance does tend to suffer sometimes when they're not really focused. And again, it's, not today that I've decided that I'm going to sell. It's, I'm going to sell, I'm going to prepare, and I'm going to make sure that, I leave this with someone who's going to walk in, buy it, and everything's in order. And that also includes remodels to make sure that they're up to date as well. So I think there's just so many factors, right partners, and continuing to work until the transaction's closed.
With our remaining few minutes here, I really want to talk about just some of the myths in franchising, and I'm curious your thoughts on, and then sort of the where things are headed in the future. I've been in the franchise world for about 17 years now, and one of the things I'm always still surprised by is that people come in. And whether it's a multi-unit franchisee or whether it's a franchisor as well, I mean, there's this idea that, you're just going to open up a business and it's just going to magically do well. And yet everybody who's in and around franchising understands that while, yes, you have ideally proven systems, a model, perhaps an R&D team, a manual to go off of, you still got to go in there and work your business and run your business. And you can't, you got to rely on the franchisor to assist with the marketing and the branding and the operations and getting you going. But at the end of the day, as a franchisee, for example, you really got to mind the business. I'd love to hear you talk about that a little bit, because I don't think that that's talked about enough. And there's this misnomer that you just go buy a franchise and voila, you're just going to be successful.
And that's a great point. And I think that's entirely true with just about anything you do in life, right? It's any profession that you are. Nothing's magically going to happen. You have to put the time, you have to put the effort into everything that you do. The most successful people are the people who have maniacal focus. And they're the ones who spend countless hours. I mean, the majority of franchisees, whether it's multi-unit or not, they're small business owners at the end of the day. The franchising world is very fragmented. And while you do have a lot of very, very large multi-unit operators, you've got very many more of smaller unit operators. And they're truly small business owners. They need to be present. They need to be visible. They need to be, they need to be focused at all times. And it's very hard with this economy, certainly right now, with all the different challenges, even more than ever, to be in the stores, be present, and have great people that surround them. And, we talked about that a couple of minutes ago, to surround yourself with great partners, but that's also employees too. You've got to empower the ones who are, you really have talent, and make sure that you continue to elevate them through the organization. But at the same time, be very, be a force in your own business, and just never stop working hard. And again, if you've got good people, make sure you continue to invest in them, but at the same time, make sure that you're, running the stores on a regular basis. And, that translates, right? I think ones who want to maximize their values, they're the ones who are always working. And I don't think it ever stops. You'd like to take your foot off the pedal sometimes, but there's too many factors that just does not allow that to happen anymore.
Well, I got to imagine when you're identifying people that you're going to work with, I mean, that's one of the things you're looking at, right? I mean, you're looking at the owner operator. Who is this person, or who is this team that's running this business? And that's everything, right? I mean, that's got to be everything for you, because that's really the engine that keeps everything going. And oftentimes if it's, if they're selling, then it's going to be what attracts a purchaser to them.
I mean, you've got to believe in the individual. And I think every opportunity that we look at it as a team, we vet it very well before we even take on an engagement. We make sure that A, we're going to be successful. B, these are the right people that we want to deal with. And, they've got their ducks in order. And if they don't, we've got to give them a list of things they need to do to prepare themselves in order to be successful and potentially sell their business. So we look at all those factors. It does matter. The experience that they have, their organization that they have, all of those factors really, really count. And, the quality of the individual too. They've got to have good character. And, we tend to surround ourselves with like-minded individuals who have that strong character and work ethic. And, I think if you've got those ingredients, you tend to be successful.
All right. So what are you feeling the next year or two in franchising? Are you feeling optimistic? It's interesting to me because I always tell people that even whether the economy's up or down, franchising usually seems fairly stable, at least sometimes more stable than the non-franchise businesses for whatever reasons. But I'm curious what you're feeling over the next year or two as we finish up this interview.
Well, I think there is the optimism. I mean, 2000, again, the uncertainty we've had over the last few years and some of the trends that we've had and all that stuff in 2022, all of the challenges that many people had, that translates to every aspect of business. But, you've got that renewed sense of optimism. There are still a lot of deals happening out there. You've got prudent investors out there. You've got a lot of people with access to capital who want to deploy and looking to spaces and to invest. I think, again, those who stay on top of trends, who continue to work hard despite all of the challenges, better position themselves. And whether it's, whether you want to sell your business, whether you want to continue to grow and acquire your business, whether you're, working on improving your business, I think all those things you got to stay on top of. And I do think, I think obviously the first half of 2023 is it's going to be, continue to be challenging, but I think people are getting acclimated to some of the challenges that have occurred over the last couple of years and, starting to focus on the things that they can control. And when you focus on the things you control, you control your own destiny at that point. There's always going to be noise. There's always going to be issues. But I think for the most part, if you continue to stay focused, good things tend to happen that way. And, this industry is very resilient and it's going to be around for a lot longer than we are.
To learn more about C Squared Advisors, you can go to c2advisorygroup.com. That's C, the number 2, advisorygroup.com. Thank you, Pete. Thanks for coming on. It's been very enjoyable to speak with you, and I wish you and C Squared Advisors the best of luck going forward.
Appreciate the opportunity. Look forward to talking again in the future. Thank you very much, Josh.
Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Franchise Euphoria. If you enjoyed it, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and review. It really helps to get this show out to more and more people. Also, if you have any questions, have ideas for guests or topics, please email me, josh@indyfranchiselaw.com. That's Josh at indyfranchiselaw.com. And finally, please note that this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes and is not in any way, shape, or form meant to be any kind of legal advice. If you're seeking legal advice, please contact a lawyer. Have a great one. Happy franchising.